How's it going, everyone? It's Javi from Weather Sponge 5000, and I hope you guys are having a great day. It's rainy here in northern New Jersey, of course, thanks to this trough moving through. However, there could be something bigger on the way next week, where the GFS model has been hinting at that possibility of a strong low pressure system moving up the northeast coast and potentially bringing a major snowstorm in certain areas. And I wouldn't be surprised if that area of snow enlarges if the GFS model continues to detect that there's a little bit more cold air than it originally anticipated. So this is definitely something I'm really hoping for here in northern New Jersey. I'm really ready for the snow. I'm sure many of you guys watching are ready for the snow as well, and hopefully this next possibility could be by the time we approach late next weekend. So to really get into detail of how this will develop, so if we were to take a look at the Saturday time frame, we do see that there's going to be a trough developing right over the Gulf of Mexico. But if I were to backtrack just a little bit more closer to the near future, we do see that this area of convective activity will develop from the remnants of this initial trough that's currently impacting the northeast at this time, that's currently bringing a heavy amount of rain. Make sure to watch out for flooding, by the way. You definitely don't want to mess with that in the northeast. But in the more long-term future, as the storm system passes through the northeast, look at the backside. It does have a tail end. There is a decent amount of convective activity hovering around the southern Gulf of Mexico, and it'll only be enhanced mainly due to the trigger of this storm system, which will be this upper level low that's going to move southward and eventually disconnect from the jet stream. So while it won't have a ton of cold air, it'll have just enough to create enough lift in the atmosphere right over the Gulf Coast for a higher amount of convective activity to develop. So moving forward with the forecast, this upper level low moves southward. We see an enhancement of convective activity not only in the Gulf of Mexico but the western Midwest as well. We do have some snow showers occurring right around the higher elevations of New Mexico and Colorado. You definitely want to make sure to watch out for that in those areas. But moving forward, we eventually do see that these two low pressure systems will move very slowly over the next few days. And like I said, that's due to the fact that it's disconnected from the jet stream. It's pretty much being disconnected from a conveyor belt, or how could I give a better example? It's pretty much equivalent to a ball rolling down a hill. If there were something blocking the ball from rolling down the hill, then of course the ball would move a lot slower. The acceleration will be a lot weaker, and that's pretty much what's happening here in this scenario. Let's say the jet stream is the hill, and the ridge is pretty much a car that's blocking the ball from rolling down the hill. That's exactly why we're seeing this low pressure system as well as this low pressure system slow down, because this ridge is essentially the car in the middle of the hill that's blocking it from accelerating to the west. So it's going to move very slowly due to the ridge blocking this from moving northward over the next few days. However, the GFS model eventually expects a trough to move in that'll allow it to accelerate a little bit to the northeast. By the time we approach the Saturday time frame, we do see that this slowly moves up the coast. Here's that trough I was talking to you guys about that'll enhance the upper level winds for this to eventually move northward just a little bit faster, and eventually this upper level low will converge with this low pressure system, and that's when we should see a rapid intensification process go on just off the southeast coast, where we see that this trough will move south enough to steer it to the north, and it'll enhance the instability quite a bit to where we could see a rapidly intensifying storm by the time this approaches the northeast. Now, during the winter time, when we see a scenario like this, it could either mean that it's just regular major rainstorm, or potentially a significant snowstorm where we'd be talking about feet of snow throughout the northeast. In this scenario right now, the GFS model is forecasting that there isn't going to be a ton of cold air, as it doesn't expect that this trough just to the north of it will move south enough to allow the cold air to enter the northeast and for this rain to interact, at least in a large enough quantity for a large area of snow to develop in the northeast. So we primarily see a rain event, but eventually on the backside, we do see the area of snow definitely enhances. We see heavy snowfall throughout Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Now, it's definitely going to be key the timing of when this trough moves to the east, because if this were to move to the east a little bit more quickly, that would mean that the cold air will remain over the northeast a little bit more quickly, and by the time this low pressure system moves northward, that would mean that this storm system would enter an area where the temperatures are a lot colder, and that's where we could see that possibility of a major winter storm. But if it's moving as slow as it is right now, then the snowfall will mainly be relegated to the interior northeast and portions of Pennsylvania. But this would still be a very strong storm. Look at the millibar pressure hovering around 979 millibars, which is equivalent to some strong hurricanes we'd see during the Atlantic hurricane season, except due to the fact that this is a mid-latitude low, so the wind speed would, though at least wind field would be much larger in a scenario like this. So it would definitely bring strong winds even well outside of the center of circulation of this storm system. But it's primarily a rain event in this scenario, but could bring heavy rain since, like I said, it's still a very strong snowstorm. But if this rain were to somehow be converted into snowfall, I wouldn't be surprised that this storm would be capable of dumping 2 feet. The only thing is that we really don't know. We really don't know when this trough will move into the northeast, how much cold air there will be by the time we approach late next weekend into early next week. That because that'll be key in determining if we're gonna see up to 2 feet of snow or not. Really all depends on this trough right here. And it also depends on the amount of pretty much how far south this upper level low moves as well, because the GFS model does want to steer this storm a little bit faster to the northeast, while the European model is a lot slower, mainly due to the fact that the European model doesn't expect as much troughing to move as far southward. If we were to move around the Monday timeframe, we see that this storm is already impacting the northeast. Compare that to the European model. Taking a look at what the European model is stating at the same time period if we were to approach the Monday timeframe. So this is where the European model has a storm by Monday. It's still in the southeast. It's a lot slower, and like I said, it's due to the fact that the troughing doesn't move as far south. There isn't an upper level low that's able to pretty much shear away this ridge and allow this storm to interact with the jet stream a little bit more. So it moves a lot slower, and I think that it would make conditions less favorable for a major snowstorm in the northeast, because since it'll move slower, that means that since it'll move slower, there's going to be less cold fronts moving southward due to the fact which will allow this storm to move slower. But if there's not a lot of cold fronts moving as far southward, then that would reduce the overall probability that the temperatures will be cold enough to support for a major snowstorm right around the eastern half of the United States. So still a lot to iron out with the forecast. I definitely wish I could give you guys answers right now, and I definitely wish we knew the answer right now, just so we could get out the way, whether we get snow or not. Maybe not getting our hopes up that we could see snow in the northeast, or maybe it's the opposite for you. Maybe not to get your worries high that a snowstorm is coming. It's better to just know if a snowstorm is coming or not by early next week. It's better for all of us, but unfortunately computer models aren't that advanced just yet, so we're just gonna have to wait and see, and it'll really be dependent on the amount of jet stream dips over the next week, especially as we approach a weekend and how far south this trough moves. But this likely will be at least a relatively strong low pressure system by the time we approach late this weekend into early next week. That's the least I could expect, and maybe some heavier rain showers, especially in the southeast. But with the European model forecasting a track that's very slow, it's really difficult to forecast what the European model has in store for this upper level low, since the European model just expects this ridge to be very strong in blocking it away from moving to the northeast. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated once we get a better idea with the forecast. So make sure to stay tuned for more updates. I'll certainly keep you guys up to date with the latest runs of the European and the GFS model. They're definitely bound to change over the next few days, and I wouldn't say we'll get a definitive answer maybe until the Wednesday or Thursday time frame. That's when we really should know how the troughing will be in the right around the Canadian United States border, to see how fast this will move northward and how far south the trough will move, because that'll be another key. We're going to need to see if there will be enough cold air in the first place to support for a major winter storm like this. But if the GFS model were correct, then at the very least you would see a pretty significant snowstorm for upstate New York and Pennsylvania, and if there is enough cold air, that could move further southward. So at least stay tuned for more updates regarding that. But let's move on to, or let's move back, let's backtrack a little bit to this current storm system we're seeing in the northeast. So we've been talking about this over the past several days, as it seems like it's going to bring the heaviest of snowfall right over the higher elevations of upstate New York. It should be pretty much entirely a rain event for Albany, mainly due to the fact that the snowfall will only impact the higher elevations where the temperature is colder, and then right up along the northeast coast is where the rain should be heavier at times. So definitely watch out for the possibility of flooding, especially right about New England. It seems like the worst of the flood threat has moved a little bit further eastward than initially anticipated. At first, it was originally forecasted that New Jersey and the New York City metropolitan area were going to get the worst of the rainfall, but it seems like the heaviest of the rainfall is moving a little bit further to the east. So New England, you need to be at least on higher alert thanks to that possibility, and the winds will be very strong as well. Taking a look at the current wind forecast, wind advisories, of course, are issued, and even high wind warnings for portions of southern New England, especially if you're closer to southeast Massachusetts, where the winds should be the strongest at that point. So the winds right now are light, but they should continue to intensify quite a bit, and they should be at its peak intensity by the time we approach the early Monday time frame, especially right around southeast Massachusetts, where you could see wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Right around Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, especially along the coast, you should expect wind gusts around 60 miles per hour. And then just a little bit more inland, expect wind gusts around 40 miles per hour, as the worst of the winds should be for a lot of the Northeast to be on the Monday time frame, mainly on the back side of this storm system, where there should be a decently strong northwesterly flow for the wind speed to be relatively strong. So make sure to watch out for 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts tomorrow, and it should be quite cold as well, thanks to the wind, and those wind chills will be very low at times. So definitely be prepared for temperatures that are much lower than what you're experiencing right now at the very least. So definitely pay close attention to that. Now, in terms of the amount of snowfall, the European model is forecasting from this snowstorm. So we do see a large area of 6 to 12 inches of snow. Keep in mind, this is assuming 1 inch of rain equates to 10 inches of precipitable snowfall, and the ratio isn't always like that. And plus, this is merely just measuring the snow that comes from the sky, not necessarily the snow that actually sticks on the surface, which typically is lower than the exact amount that falls from the sky, because of course it takes time for the ground to get cold enough to support for much accumulating snowfall. So expect the readings to be a little bit lower than what you see right here, but they still should be around ballpark in the higher elevations of the Catskills and the Adirondacks. Expect around 6 inches of snow, maybe a little bit more than that. And then the worst of snowfall should be in the interior portions of Maine, where you could see close to a foot of snow, and this could move southward into Vermont as well, and portions of Pennsylvania should see anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow for the most part. Don't expect the snow to move as far south as Washington DC as you're seeing right here. It doesn't. It seems like the European model is definitely overestimating the snowfall in that area. The temperature will be a bit too warm, and the area of snow will be a bit too far north of Washington DC for you to experience any accumulating snowfall. So ignore this part, but for the areas, let's say north of the Poconos, that's where that forecast should be fairly accurate. And if we were to take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting, with this same snowstorm, we do see fairly similar forecasts. Expect the snow total to be a little bit less than what you see right here, but still around the ballpark. Now, in terms of the second snowstorm I was talking about, this could be a big snowmaker if it were to come for fruition, where the 6 to 12 inch category is definitely a lot larger once this second snowstorm would move through by the Monday timeframe of next week. So definitely at least keep tabs on it, because it is a powerful nor'easter, and if the cold air is there, that certainly could be our next major winter storm. So here's a quick look at the Futurecast radar to show you guys what you should expect over the next few hours in the Northeast. So the heaviest rainfall, like I said, should be concentrated right over Connecticut, as it seems like New Jersey and New York City area were in a little bit of a dry slot. Definitely a dry slot that was bigger than anticipated. And look at the snow that's developing on the western side, especially in the higher elevations. So it's pretty much inevitable if you're in the higher elevations. Anywhere east of Syracuse, you will experience accumulating snowfall. We see that right along the Ohio River Valley. You're going to miss out on the snowfall since you're, of course, along the lower elevation where the temperature will be a bit too warm for accumulating snowfall. But you won't need to go very far to the east or west of Albany to see heavy accumulating snowfall, maybe up to 6 inches of snow. So definitely be prepared for that. Some of this snowfall could move into higher elevations of New Jersey as well, but don't expect much accumulating snowfall there, because it should move out relatively quickly, and it's going to be mainly in snowfall threat for the higher elevations. So to conclude, still too far out to say if we're going to see a major snowstorm for the Northeast, but I will at least acknowledge the fact that the GFS model is hinting at that possibility, and I definitely wouldn't be surprised if we do see enough cold air move far south enough to maybe bring that possibility. Definitely I'm gonna keep a close eye on the next few troughs moving through, and how strong northerly winds will be over the next week, because that'll play a big role in determining the amount of cold air that will be able to support for a major snowstorm. But stay tuned for more updates, everyone, as I thank you guys for watching. And in the comments below, I want to ask you guys, do you think a major snowstorm will actually impact the Northeast? And if so, would it impact the coastal Northeast? What do you guys think? I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me as well. If you want an even more in detail forecast regarding snowfall in your area or any other weather related questions, feel free to comment down below, and I'll do my best to give you guys a pretty detailed answer. As I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for more updates, and I hope you guys all have a great day.